So since I've been sharing TMI stories since 2010, I've already told dozens of painful or embarrassing stories to the general public. It gets harder each time. I wonder if I'm going to be able to find another story and then quickly discover that with just a little digging, I can tap into a never-ending well of shame and humiliation. As you know, this show is the result of a TMI workshop Sari and I taught at the Mental Health Association. As soon as we walk in the door, I feel like I have found my people. It is so refreshing, so nice to be in a room full of people who know they have mental illness, rather than being in one of our regular workshops where everybody's still trying so hard to deny it. More than half of our work is done right up front. I feel the immediate sense of relief that comes with true kinship and camaraderie. I've had depression for a long time, depression of the clinical variety. My mother used to say to me, "Oh, are you feeling blue again?" Her use of the word blue was enough to make me want to end it all. What, you think when you feel blue, it's worse than when other people feel blue? It's not my mom's fault. She's never experienced depression. I know my blue is the same as other people's blue, but I also know that clinical depression is not the same thing as being blue. I remember seeing an episode of Oprah of the inspirational variety about a guy with no legs running a marathon. I lied there watching and thought, why don't you do a show about somebody with clinical depression getting up off the couch? That would actually inspire me. Just once, I would like to know what it's like to do laundry, and as soon as it's dry, take it out, fold it, and put it away. My laundry becomes like a third person in the house. Sometimes it sleeps with us in bed or sits with us at the dinner table. Sometimes it lies on the couch and watches movies with us. It rarely takes a quick and efficient trip right into the drawer. During my drinking days, I was morally opposed to taking medication. I'd sit at the bar thinking pharmaceutical companies are trying to take over the world, trying to control us, over-prescribing so we become complacent so they can own us. I will not be a slave to a drug. Yes, I'll have another. I'm not okay taking antidepressants, but I'm fine guzzling bottle upon bottle of what may as well be labeled depressant. Perhaps the conspiracy theories are true, but in my experience, it's also true that if there's a chemical imbalance and it doesn't get balanced, nothing else seems to work. I try other things before I give in. I discover St. John's wort, when chased with shots of tequila, is really ineffective. It's a total waste of money. I start jogging. It's supposed to be physically impossible to feel depressed with all these endorphins, right? I mean, every day I jog around Prospect Park, and for all 3.5 miles, I cry. I'm defying laws of nature. I cry everywhere. I can't control it. In the laundromat, restaurants, bodegas, you name it, I cry there. It's particularly bad when I'm teaching preschool and cry more than the kids in my class. I hide in the corner of the playground hoping none of them will notice. But one little kiss ass always has to say something. "Miss Eva, are you okay? Maybe try using your words if you can." I hit my low at the apartment right under the BQE between Williamsburg and Dumbo. We call our neighborhood Dumbsburg. We live in a 4-story atrocity. My friend Claire and I went to look at it with a realtor from Avalanche Realty. That should tell you something. During what resembles a haunted house tour, we noticed that everything in this brownstone is held together with caulk. The banister, door frames, the dreaded darkwood paneling, all of it reinforced with caulk. It isn't until after we sign the lease and send in our deposit that we realize that all of the windows have been framed in old lady diapers to keep out the breeze. I suppose it's no wonder that this is the building that I break down in. I wake up one morning crying and I can feel it, the depression coursing through my blood. I feel contaminated, defective. My mom calls, I answer the phone crying, and I can't stop. She doesn't know what to do for me. Oh, I hate to think of you by yourself when you're like this. Why don't you go see if you can go talk to a neighbor? I sit on the phone in silence, imagining all the options. Do I, A, go next door to the drug dealer's apartment where it's quite possible that I could get killed? B, the abandoned building where the homeless grunt kids are squatting? Or C, go to the Skater Boys brownstone for a nice soothing hot mug of bong water? Like what? I will never understand how she came up with that prized piece of advice. She knew where I lived, but in a strange way, her advice is helpful. I hang up the phone with my mother, and I know I have to come up with a more promising solution. I finally give medication a try. I can't believe what happens. After a few weeks, I feel a sense of myself that I haven't experienced since I was 5 years old, an inner peace and contentment. I have energy freed up from not fighting for my life every single day. I always thought meds would rob me of my emotions, but all of a sudden I can feel all of them: anger, sadness, hurt, fear, and joy. I have an array of feelings instead of just that one, that dreaded depression that I was always trying to get away from. I don't know what I would have done if the medication didn't work, but it did, which confirmed something that I had resisted accepting. I do, in fact, have a mental illness. After years of being on medication, I become well enough to realize that in addition to clinical depression, I'm also an alcoholic. And so in 2005, with a lot of really hard work, I get sober. After a couple of years of sobriety, I think, maybe I'm not mentally ill. Maybe now that I'm not swigging back bottles of depressants every day, I can be what I always wanted to be when I grow up: normal. It's in my excitement about possibly being normal that I do what every other mentally ill person has done at least once in their lifetime. I go off my meds just in time for the holidays. Now's the time. That March, my friend and ex-roommate Clara comes to visit me. I had moved back from the city to be back upstate again. She lived with me through the Great Depression, the pre-medication era. She knows the signs, not that it takes an expert. My apartment is dark when she enters. She goes to turn on one light and then another, but the bulbs are all burned out. It smells like garbage. She has to tell me because in my state, I don't know. Eva, you don't usually live like this. I don't? Are you sure? You have to go back on your medication, I'm sure. Years have passed, and for the most part, I'm doing very well. Some days you will find me in my pile of laundry doing shots of liquid vitamin D together and soaking up the rays of my seasonal affective disorder lamp. We do what we can. I occasionally wish that I didn't have to take medication, but then I look at the life I get to lead with them. I get to take care of myself well. I get to witness all of these people tell their truth, release their shame, and become more of who they really are. I think about all of the unlucky, gifted people who suffered through this disease before medication was available, like Virginia Woolf and Vincent van Gogh. And I remind myself to be grateful that I've mustered up the courage to talk to you about this with both ears intact and no rocks in my pockets. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.